Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello my friends and welcome to my top 10 reads of 2025, and I can't believe we're here again. This is just wild. And this video, it's always so bittersweet to make, and I don't want to waste too much time on the top, but this one is a little different than I think maybe the past 3 or 4 years that I've done it, just for how I arrived at my favorites this year. I know will be a little different for those who've been on the journey, but if you're new to me this year, then you'll just be like, well, this just seems like another top 10 video. From you, like the ones I've been doing already. You know, I have a playlist made for my other top 10 lists, where I've been putting books in some categories, but for the most part, I've really tried. I don't think any of these ones, if I've done it right, well, I lied. One of these may have showed up in another listing for audiobook, but otherwise I tried to keep all of the books that were in my like top 10 off of the other lists because, you know, I wanted them to get to be special on this list. But I do have 6-star reads. But this year I didn't have very many. And in previous years, I've had more than 10 6-star reads. And so the month of December each year, I would reread as many of those 6-star books as I could to help me determine the ranking of my 6-star reads, right? I had this own little little quiz I would quiz myself after I would reread the book to help me determine the ranking. Because, you know, I would usually have between 20 to 30 6-star books, and, you know, to get to my top 10, I would do that. That little hair is going to bother me. Yes, I did finally refreshen my like deep purple that I do, but it's also really staticky because of the weather, so it wants to play around with me, so sorry about that. But anyway, and so I didn't have to do that. In fact, like I said, I didn't have 10. I actually have 6-star reads to go over with you. And then I ended up last night, it took me a while because I went back through all of my 5-star reads, which I did have a good amount of those, and I picked out some that I wanted to make in my top 10. I went through and picked out a few, and then I do have at the end kind of a bonus, some 2 books specifically, which I think will make a lot of sense to anyone who's been paying attention to my channel in at least the month of December. Some books that are bonus to make it onto my is going to be playing peekaboo, so I will probably have to reach up and fix that multiple times during this today. That are going to make it on my favorites list. Also, just one other caveat for this. To continue where I was going. So I didn't then rank these ones. So I actually didn't pick a very favorite of the year. We'll see as I talk about these with you, because a lot of these books, because they're my favorites, they've showed up on many, many recommendations lists. You know, whenever there's a trope that I love that has one of these, they show up on it. I've reread a lot of these ones multiple times because I annotated them for patrons or for when I did annotated pre-orders. So I've talked about them a lot. And then there's a couple of them that I only read them the once because they very much affected me, or they were super long books, so I wouldn't have reread them multiple times because I don't annotate books generally that are super long. So we'll just see how this goes. I'm excited to talk about them a bit. So there isn't going to be one where I'm not counting down with it. So that's what I meant, that this is different from years past, where usually I have quotes already pulled out and I rank these for you guys from my, 10 to 1. And I didn't do that this time because I like I said, I didn't reread these and I didn't rate them and rank them. They're just going to be, these are my favorite books of the year, the ones that have stuck with me, and have held their own. And now I'll get to that final little piece where this also took me a while to put this one together, and I've been putting it off. And this is the same thing I mentioned in my romantasy top 10, which I know not everybody saw because, again, December is a tricky month for if people see all your videos or not, just because there's so much content people put out for like Vlogmas, as well as people are with families, so you don't see all the videos and everything. But I have just really struggled with brain fog in December, and I, was really honest about that. And thank you for those of you who commented back that you've also struggled with that or have had issues with your mind because of medication or just because of your neurodivergence or focusing and stuff. And so my memory isn't what it normally is, and that's okay. Like it's leveling out a little better, but a few of these books that I know that I love, because I gave them 6 stars, I wrote reviews about how I love them, but the way that I passionately love to talk about my favorite books has just been harder this month. It's just been a little bit tougher, and that has made me feel a bit insecure about doing these longer form gush videos. And it's actually been a bit bittersweet for me because I have some really fun videos I want to do planned. I'll just tell you about them. I've been teasing them to my patrons. I have a Heated Rivalry adaptation review planned. I'm also planning one about, see my brain, it's tough. I have 2 videos planned around Heated Rivalry. I have a review of the show planned and how it compares to the book, and then I have a video planned about what I think the adaptation means for future adaptations of other romances, because I think those are actually 2 separate things. One is just how much fun I had watching the show and how well I think the adaptation did just as its own, and then I wanted to have a discussion video about what Jacob Tierney did with this and what it should mean if Hollywood and the industry was smart, what it'll mean. But those take really centering my thoughts. And another video I've been teasing about is I want to do something to do with Outlander that honestly I've been wanting to do for a few months. And I was planning to do it in the new year. And then since I've started this medication that I've been on, which I opened up more about in my Patreon vlog again. And I don't want to talk about specific medications and stuff on a public video just because I don't want to be giving advice or talking about those things on a public video. I talk about it on my Patreon and everything like that. But because I'm not trying to change this medication, I'm just trying to adjust things, because overall this medication is such a good thing for me and for my migraines, and it is. But the way that it works with my brain chemistry and the way that I normally am much sharper about remembering details. I mean, any of my friends would attest to this. I remember things long after I maybe even should remember them. But there's this Outlander video I really want to put together and possibly have out before the 8th season starts. And I just don't know if my mental state is at a place where I could put something like that together now. And that's just a little bit humbling. Right? So again, I know a lot of my videos have turned into these having to say this at the front of them, and that's probably not great for everyone, but I'm just a very honest person, and when I'm not feeling right about something, I like to just get it out of the way, because otherwise I end up filming a video and feeling kind of icky or dishonest about how I portray myself in it, and then that leads me to feeling gross when I'm editing it, and I'd rather just put it out at the front, and then if I end up cutting that out of the video, I at least said my piece and was okay, well, you got it out there, and if I feel that as I'm editing the video it was necessary to explain myself, it's there, and if it's fine, then it's fine. But I needed to write down notes for pretty much all of these books, whereas in the past I would just bring up my spreadsheet which had the barest points and I would just riff on it and I would just go, because these are my favorite books and I normally wouldn't need touchstone reminders, but I do. And that's the same way, right, that I felt about the Romantasy video. And again, you guys are great, and I know that on the whole none of you guys are judging me, but I judge me, and that makes it hard for me to want to film the video when I drag it out. Literally, it's afternoon right now. I would normally have filmed a video like this at 9 a.m. I'd be all done with it and I would be kicking back and watching a podcast and eating lunch, and I've drug this out all day to sit down and film it. And it's not because I don't enjoy making the content for you guys, it's because my brain is taking longer to process how to explain something. But anywho, to get that all out of the way, I will again reiterate, like, I'm doing so much better with that than I was literally 3 weeks ago. I'm just still, I can tell the difference. But that difference is worth the pain relief that I have. It's so worth it. It's just still, you give up a little something to get it. And it's sad when you have to make a trade to get something else, it's that barter system that when the barter system is physically pieces of yourself or mentally pieces of yourself, it never feels good. Even when I just take a step back a little bit and I'm like, no, it's definitely worth it, because having migraines as frequently as I was starting to have them, no. My brain definitely wasn't working well when I was having those. And now let's straight up shift into this. So the way that I've been approaching romance this year has been different. And I love that. I love when you look back at what you've picked as your favorites for the year and starting to see how that's shifted, right? And I noticed that, I mentioned that when I did my spiciest of the year, how it was actually harder to find the spiciest books I read in the year, because I know I'd read some very hot books, but I wasn't tracking spice the same way I had before, I wasn't quite looking at that the same way as I have in the past. And I just always find that interesting when I'm looking at things differently and how my mind shifts each year. And I've definitely been in phases where I've been looking for pining more and more. And then some years I'm looking for the really intense love more than others. And this year was definitely a pining devotion type of year again. That is definitely the type of year I was in again. And I think you'll see that with this one. So we'll get started with that off the top with, again, you won't be surprised by a lot of these authors, but let's start with Julia Wolf, because we have 2 Julia Wolf to kick off this with. And again, I'm not going in release order. I just have the stack, but we're going to start with the 6-star books, like I said, and then we'll go into some of the 5-star ones. So we started off with this one was the second book in the series, which was By the Letter. And this was one that honestly, this one had some real angst in it here. And this one had a hero that, it was so interesting with me, because this has one where the hero goes right to the doghouse in the beginning, but then it kind of switches, and the heroine had me wanting to pull my hair out with her, because you just couldn't believe that she was loved. And then I had to look at myself, because I'm like, well, but look at how he starts out treating her. Of course it makes sense that she doesn't believe this, but anyway, let's get into it. So this was book 2 in the Mile High Billionaires. And this one is about Shira, who is a shy and reserved woman who is actually a widow. And she was almost a child bride to this honestly very kind man who really kind of married her out of pity in a way and was taking care of her. And they never had a sexual marriage at all. Literally, he was taking care of her. And he died a few years ago and left his business to her. And honestly, he had a daughter who I think is just a couple years younger, if not even older than her. I don't even remember what. But this business is really struggling. And enter in, well, actually, we got to go back with that. At the very beginning of this book, Shira, who again, very shy and reserved, she actually goes to this sexy night with this man that she met on an app. And they go to this club and they have sex. And that is a want of hers, is to be kind of used for the night. And so that's what they do. They don't go by their real names. They get in, they have a hot night together. A condom breaks right at the end. The guy says, hey, if anything can't come of this, I'll leave my number at the front. And she's like, no worries. And they go their separate ways. She goes back to her life. And then enter Roman Wells, who, I mean, of course we know it's going to end up being the guy that fucked her at that place. But at the moment, she doesn't, like, know that. She just knows that this man has come in, and he, I guess, has a prior connection with her husband, and he sees this business is failing. He sees her, which partially is his own perception that she was a young, like, probably a gold digger after this guy's business, and now she's this wealthy widow and she's running the business into the ground. That's his perception of her. But also because the stepdaughter has also been saying those things to her, and he, like, knows the daughter of the guy who died as well. And so he comes in and acquires this business, and basically within a very short amount of time they get off on the wrong foot, and he pushes her out of the business. I won't go into more, like, detail about that, but that's literally, like, what happens there. At the same time, like, literally at the same time, she finds out she's pregnant. She reaches out to the place to get the information of the guy that she slept with. And of course she can't directly contact him, but the person who runs it, who it turns out that it's his brother's club, because of course it is. Because there are 4 Wells brothers, by the way, which Julia has promised us that we will get the 3 Wells brothers who are unattached. We're going to get their romances, which I can't fucking wait, because Roman has a twin brother named Ben, who is going to be amazing. Like, we fucking love Ben, okay? Ben is like a rock star in this. Like, we'll get to him some more, but I love Ben. I love Ben so much. But anyway, Roman ends up getting contacted then by the club and said that he gets the message that says the worst has happened, which that's what he blah, blah, blah. And he gets given the name of the woman that he fucked. And he realizes that it is Shira. And he's like, no, that cannot be, because, of course it's that thing where, like, they were wearing masks. They couldn't have known. But, like, literally her persona at that place was so different. It's one of those cases where, like, it kind of makes sense that he wouldn't have known, because he just would not have known that this timid, quiet, very awkward. She also is a bit, like, neurodivergent is how I would categorize her too. Very awkward, very, like, stand out. Like, how could he ever have guessed that this was this woman that he was so infatuated with? And now to find out she's pregnant with his child, he's taken over her business, pushed her out, thought all these horrible things about her. And now she's pregnant with his child. So after he's gotten her, pushed out of the company, he now has to show up and say, hi, I'm the baby daddy. And yes, I do want this child with you. And now the next good chunk of the book is him needing to grovel and prove that he does want to be a dad, and that first impressions are wrong. And a few other things happen in between there too, because again, his brother Ben does come into this. His brother Ben plays rugby, and he does show up at the business after Roman is already kind of like taking it over. And Ben has a few interactions with Shira where he's like, are you sure you're getting the right perception out of her? Because Shira is a little more relaxed around Ben, and Shira is very, like, intimidated by Roman, and she's very attracted to him. She's intimidated by him, and he just kind of, like, jumps to these conclusions about her, and she can never get on the right foot with him, and he just, like, plows right over her with his personality because of his perception, right? And so now that he A, knows who she is, B, they're in the situation, and C, like, he wants to try again, he has to walk back all those perceptions, and he really takes a big old slice of humble pie or eats crow or whatever analogy you want to see, and he's trying to see her through this lens of, like, this is going to be the mother of my child, and I was an absolute asshole to her. And how can we get on the right foot now? Like, how can we start fresh? And lucky for him too, like, Shira wants that. And also, she doesn't have anyone, like, but her friends. Like, she has her 2 girlfriends. And she never really wanted to be working for that company anyway. Like, it was her husband's company, and he was good to her. He never mistreated her. He made her a wealthy woman. so she was trying to do right by him, but it wasn't her passion. And so she's, I guess, kind of happy that Roman is doing what he's doing with it. And she actually ends up working for, sorry, I forgot the name of the company, but even the name of the company makes me want to cry. So it's fine if I don't remember it. But I think it's something with dignity, building dignity maybe. But geez, why can't I remember it? It's literally my favorite man. It's my favorite man, and I can't remember his name. Julia Wolf. Who's my favorite man by Julia Wolf, y'all? Elliot. There we go. Elliot and Catherine. Is that who it is? She ends up working with them, which is beautiful. So, hold on. There goes see, it's very inconsistent lighting today. I apologize for that. But anyway, and so they get a second chance. He actually ends up moving in next to her because he wants to be there for the pregnancy, and all those things. So, see, I still want a lot to, and all my feelings for this one just come rushing back. And like I said, he definitely starts in the doghouse very quickly in this one, but he very quickly gets it right. He realizes the places that he was wrong about it. And again, like Shira, she is very forgiving because, again, she's never really had anybody in her corner anyway. And so, again, besides her friends. And so she almost is like, it's sad, really. Because to her, she like understands how he could just be wrong about her. And it almost like, it kind of pisses him off at times how she could just like understand that he would be wrong about her and things like that. But yeah, watching him build her up is beautiful. And then once he is in love with her, she doesn't believe that. Like that's the part that really broke my heart near the end of this one, is once he's so in love with her and she's just like, no, you're not. Like, you're not. And he is honestly just like, I'm really trying to be patient because I know that this is scary for you and like you don't understand, but it's honestly like super insulting that you'd say I don't love you when I kind of am obsessed with you and I love you more than anything in my life. And it's really beautiful. And again, I love his brothers. And of course, one of the brother, like I said, when Ben finds out that his brother knocked up Shira, he is like full on, I'm going to be the best uncle ever, because again, Ben is his twin. And so he's like, oh my God, I'm going to be Uncle Ben. Like, he's so into it. And whenever there's a tiff, he's always on Shira's side and is just, he's golden retriever energy for her, which is funny. Like, I just can't wait for whatever his is going to be. And then there's one of the brothers who's a total asshole, who has to kind of get like won over a bit by Shira at some point. And so there's just lots of good stuff here. So the Wells brothers, I'm sure that's what the series will be called, even in everything. I'm looking forward to whatever she does with the light back. So yeah, absolutely loved this one. And I believe this was my first 6-star of the year when I read that one. So we'll continue. Like I said, we'll do the other Julia Wolf as well. So then the other one that I gave 6 stars from her was Hold the Line, and this one was book 2 as well in the Kelly Ranch series. So the Kelly Ranch series always had the potential to be a very exciting series for me, okay, because this is the second generation of Lachlan and Elena. So they are a couple from Julia Wolf's young adult, or not young adult, new adult series. That was a college series, and that was my first ever 6-star book that I had from Julia Wolf. And I fucking love them. I love them. But anyway, Phoebe is a small business owner. She runs a bakery, a nut-free bakery, by the way. And she is the 3rd child, I think. Because, yeah, that goes Caleb. I totally forgot the oldest daughter's name. Forgot her name, but then Phoebe, and then the other son. Sorry, I can't remember names right now, but that one's coming soon as well. So anyway, Hold the Line is about Phoebe and Deacon. And Deacon has just recently, well, a couple a little while back, got out of prison. He was in prison for he went to prison, honestly, for his brother. But he was from kind of a rough family, and he grew up in the area, in what is this, Sugar Brush, wherever, in Wyoming. And now he is out and he's working construction, and he ends up being the like upstairs neighbor for Phoebe, because her sister used to live up there, but now she lives with her boyfriend, and Phoebe lives downstairs. And she starts off trying to like leave him baked goods, but what she doesn't know is he actually is allergic to peanuts, and so he doesn't accept any food from anyone, because he doesn't know that her whole bakery is peanut free or anything like that. She keeps trying to do these like sweet things for him, and he just keeps rejecting them. And so she just is like, they're getting off on the wrong foot. And then there's one day where I think he's like walking by the bakery and someone's giving her a hard time. And so he steps in, and now she really is trying to do something nice for him. And I just know there's a point early on where finally he admits, he's like, it's not that I don't want your baked goods, it's that I'm allergic to nuts. And in fact, like when he was in prison, there was a time where like his food wasn't properly like checked and he almost died. And I guess that happened a couple times. So he's very paranoid. And she tells him, she's like, my nephew is actually allergic to nuts, so there isn't no nuts in my, sorry, I'm a 13-year-old boy inside. So, she's like, there are no nuts in my entire bakery because I want it to be safe for him. So anything that I make, you can have it. And that's just a really sweet, literally, place to start. And then as like a thank you to her or something, like I think he accidentally like actually breaks a pot that she makes, or that she had like plants in or something, and he like makes her a planter, and she's trying to then like pay him for them, and he's like, actually I made them. And anyway, he's just one of those gruff, he doesn't want anything for free, he doesn't want to get anything because he, people assume the worst of him. And I mean, he did go to prison, and his brother is trying to get back in contact with him, and he doesn't want anything to do with him, and he's just very much trying to stay on the right track. He doesn't ever want to get in trouble again, all that kind of stuff, right? And he does have, I think it's a cousin who believes in him, and that's who had like given him work. And yeah, him and Phoebe just start hanging out, and, as they get seen around town together, she's from, the really wealthy town. Like the Kellys are very well off. And, these two, they did know each other back in school. And I guess even there was a little bit of crush between them, but again, she was from the wealthy family, and there was never going to be anything between them. And Phoebe herself, she is this very bubbly, beautiful, she's a plus size woman, and she has been mistreated before. She's been kept a secret before. She's been not appreciated for who she is before. And so she is pretty insecure in certain ways. She's insecure. And so Deacon being secretive about his relationship with his brother is definitely a trigger for her, because she just doesn't understand why he would want to hide that, even though for him it's a thing of shame for him. So there's some miscommunication with that. And what I liked is that, so the hold the line statement in this one, like the title, comes from specifically, I think it's Deacon's cousin or the cousin's girl or whatever, explaining to Phoebe that like Deacon is just learning how to trust. And for him, that might lead him to hiding things that he's afraid that someone would run if they knew, just because he's been rejected before once people learn things. And so if you will just be patient, if you'll give him time to tell you, if you won't assume the worst, if you'll hold the line, he will eventually open up to you. And so that's where that comes from. So yeah, there was a lot of beautiful moments. This also includes, it's pretty, I think, strongly said that like Deacon is a virgin. I mean, he went to prison pretty young, so he's like, I guess, fooled around with girls, but I think he's a virgin when they actually have sex. So there's that. Anyway, there's a super hot scene of them literally just like fooling around on the couch and him like coming in his pants. And, that's something that Julia Wolf likes to do, is make the guy come in his pants, for the girl. So we love that. But overall, we love it. We love seeing Deacon get love from the Kelly family. You know, here's the thing too, to put this out there, like, I will say, just being honest, I think they had Daddy Locke be a little too easily accepting of Deacon. And I'm okay with it because Deacon needed, like, good, manly, like, needed the good men there. But I would have liked to see Daddy Locke be maybe a little bit more protective in this, because I don't know. There's some pretty dangerous stuff that is going on in Deacon's life. And I don't know. I just foresee Daddy Lachlan being a little bit more possessive over his baby girl than was in here. But I also appreciate him not, like, scaring Deacon away, because I think Deacon would have internalized that real hard if Locke had pushed back too much. So anyway, that's just me being, like, really dialed in to Lachlan, because he's my man. Okay. Lachlan is Rip Wheeler to me. Okay. He is, like, intrinsically Rip Wheeler to me. And so I just expect him to want to punch people, but he's not. He's a softer, sweeter, delicious man that he is, who's been living with Elena for 40 years at this point. So things are good. But anyway, I love it. It's sweet. There's so many precious moments in this one. Phoebe is the woman that I hope to be, and she's so gentle. And yes, she has her insecurities, but not many of them really have to do with, like, how she looks. It's more how she was treated in relationships. And I appreciated that. Like, it had less to do with someone being ashamed of her for, like, how she looks, and more with, like, keeping her a secret. And I always love that. I always appreciate how, you know, since Julia Wolf writes plus size women in the majority of her books, like she does, she's a plus size woman who writes plus size women in most of her stories. She doesn't use the same tropes for each plus size woman, you know, because yeah, we're not all a monolith. We don't all self-hate because of our size. Like, because again, this is just truth with all, like, you can hate how you look at any size, right? In the same way that there can be body positivity at any size, there can be body hate and body dysmorphia at any size, right? And there can be things you hate about yourself at a size 0, as a size 30, okay? Absolutely. And we have insecurities in relationships no matter our size on the scale. And, you know, that's the thing about romance, is there's going to be miscommunications and frustration in relationship no matter what. And so when you read plus size romances, to have it always be a body hate issue is just so, like, you know, I know my plus size girlies agree with me, where, like, that's about the most trite, gross thing ever. It's not that there can't ever be a comment where you think that, or, like, a certain thing where you know, like, I still want it to be realistic, you know, when he goes to touch the tummy, if she's just like, yeah, don't touch me there, and he'd be like, no, I love it. Like, that's fine, because sometimes we just feel that way. But to have it be the focus in every time that she's plus size, it's like, please move along to something else. So, okay, next up. And this starts the obscene amount of hockey romances on this list. And I really, truly promise you that was not on purpose, okay? I don't love hockey any more than other sport. I am actually shocked how many sports romance ended up on this list, because while I certainly don't dislike sport romance and I won't turn it away for any other type of story, that's not my, like, main bag of tricks either. So I don't exactly know what happened here. Not sure. I believe are like 5 hockey on here, but each one is very different in its own way. So, but I will tell you, this book is still my absolute surprise 6-star on here. And even just writing my notes for this one, I was tearing up again, because it just touched me so beautifully. And it really is a flash in the pan for me, because I'll be honest, this author, she really kind of hits the same notes with pretty much every book, which is all right. Like, she is very solid, but this one, this had some special sauce in it. And this is The Girlfriend Zone by Lauren Blakeley. All right, beautiful. And this one is book 4 in Love and Hockey. And I will say that with a lot in this series, it's funny because a lot of the romances are all like taking place at the same time. And this one, I think, kind of like starts around the same time as like even book 1 does. So you can jump right into this one if you want to. And I think you'd be, but this one is about Leighton and Miles. And they end up meeting in a kind of a funny way. I believe, if I'm correct, see, like I said, I put notes, but I forgot to put this there. I think what's supposed to happen is that, like, I love the first line. This one I will read a quote. It says, "I didn't expect to meet my future wife today. I had other plans, but as she heads towards me in the coffee shop's doorway, I know that's who she is." Maybe the ink on her arms does it, the stenciled flowers cascading down them, or possibly the mesmerizing sea blue shades of her eyes. But honestly, it's probably the cute as hell smirk that she sends my way. No way is my future wife gonna realize I'm her future husband with this level of awkwardness. So cute. But anyway, so this cafe is owned by Birdie, who happens to be Miles's grandma. But I believe what's supposed to happen is that Leighton is supposed to do like a photo shoot of Birdie because she wants some like glamour shots taken or whatever. But anyway, through some hijinks or whatever, there's supposed to be like this boudoir shoot. And Miles, who is a pro hockey player, ends up like volunteering to like be the male, like, not model is the wrong thing, but kind of like be the male model for this boudoir shoot so that this woman has like a man to like be in the shoot with or whatever. And then like the woman cancels. And so then they end up like doing the shoot together. Like she ends up doing it with him and they take all these sexy shots together. And then they end up like having this date, but like Birdie, I think it's the grandma's idea, who's like, don't tell her what you do so that, because again, sorry, he's pro hockey, and once girls know that, sometimes they often get all like gaga over him or whatever. And so they go from like thing to thing to thing through this weekend. They have this amazing chemistry. They end up going like geocaching together. They do this photo shoot. They do all these things. They end up, of course, like they have this amazing sex, and then this beautiful weekend where they're obsessed with each other so quickly. Like I said, from the first look at her, he's like, that's my future wife, right? Totally just wild, over the top. And you're like, what is this book going to be? Okay. This book is huge. It's almost 500 pages. And then she ends up coming to his place at the end of all this. Cause like they'd went to her studio for the pictures and like they did all this stuff. And then she goes to his place, and what should be there but a picture of him with his team. And now she realizes that they haven't talked about his work at all. And who should be in the photo with him but her dad, who is his coach. And who should be that coach and who should his coach be but this man who gave him a chance when he needed it, and this coach that he looks up to so much. And he knows that his coach has 2 daughters, and who he absolutely adores, but he didn't know his coach's daughters' names, and he just calls them, I think, like the coach like calls his daughters like nicknames. I can't remember what they are right now, but literally their beautiful romantic weekend where they're like, this is my soulmate, this is crazy, this like kismet weekend of like we have all these things we're into, comes crashing down because before they get one step deeper, they have to cut it off because she loves her dad, he loves his coach, they can't be together. It's over. And also because, and I can't remember if she has already gotten this job or not, she's going to be taking on an assistant photography role with the team. And that will be forbidden for them to be together. And so everything that they hoped would happen is over. So like literally it says like this was the best date of their lives, the best weekend, and they just have to stop in their tracks. So then though, over the next like truly like months, this is why this one, you can kind of jump into this one wherever in the series, because in the other books in the series, like, we know that Miles is hung up on someone, and we know that Birdie is this photographer, because there's other events that are happening where she's tagging along, taking photos, and she goes to events and stuff. And we know that Miles is hung up on someone. And they just become really good friends. There's even a point, I think, where she maybe stays with him for a little bit, which is, of course, where things like ramp it up because they end up being roommates for a little bit. But they just become such good friends. There's also some other elements to this one. So she has, I wrote it down on my notes here, she has mild to moderate I can't pronounce it, sensorineural hearing loss. I'm so sorry. Sensorineural hearing loss. I'm sorry. She's had that since she was 16. So she's like going deaf. And so she has sign language. And she wears hearing aids, and she's sometimes very self-conscious about that. And there'll be times where when she's with the girlfriends, like, she can read lips, but if they're in, like, I know there's this one place in here where they always go, and like the girls always love to hang out there, and like the music is super loud, and she always misses parts of the conversation because the overhead music is always so loud, and she can't ever like tune in on their conversations and stuff. And the way that he, she's willing to like open up to him about that, and it's so beautiful. But the way like her mother just never tried to learn sign language, never tries to communicate with her daughter better. But yeah, like the dad and the sister, they will basically exclusively sign with her because they know it makes it better for her. They both learned it as soon as they knew it would be a thing. They started learning it right away, so that if she ever loses her hearing all the way, they'll be able to do that for her. Whereas the mom is like, why can't you just, read my lips? Like, why can't you just do this? And anyway, they become these absolutely like best friends. And what I just loved about this one is that by the time they go into like, I really can't live without you, and they're willing to finally now like come out to her dad and take the risk of him being angry about it. This isn't just them fucking at all. In fact, of course they're now sleeping together and are serious about it. Like, they know that they're going to last. This isn't just risking it for no reason. He's willing to take punishments in his job, which, he is a professional hockey player. Like, he could be punished. He could get traded. Like, things could happen if he made the coach mad. He's willing to do that because, like, this isn't just a fling anymore. It isn't a maybe. Like, I love your daughter. And to prove it in, like, the best third act gesture ever, before he ever knew that they would be something, he'd been taking, I'm going to spoil the ending for this, so skip ahead to the next book if you don't want to know, but it's my favorite part, and I'm going to tell you why I gave this book 6 stars. He'd been taking sign language for months, before they ever start dating. Just when they're friends, he starts taking sign language. The man starts taking sign language for her as a friend. Now, granted, though, I think he always was going to progress their relationship, whether he's a bit older of a hockey player too. So I don't think he could retire when he's ready as well. But still, when they're not dating, they're not sleeping together, he starts taking sign language classes because he's listened to her. He's heard, her hearing's going to continue to degenerate. It's going to get worse. And he's heard how much it hurts her that her mom has never tried, whereas her dad and her sister, like I said, they immediately know this. And when he like signs to her dad that he loves her and that this is serious, the dad is literally just like, fuck, because he's like, okay, I guess you're serious, He signs it to him. It was so beautiful. And I was weeping. This is a audio, production. All of hers are. So it was just so beautiful. And it just popped it over the edge because it was so beautiful. And I this was the, there's two in this series that start with one night stands where they then like become friends and like roommates before it like builds into love again. And honestly, it's done so well both times. Like book 1 in this series and then before in this series both do that. But this one with the third act gesture, I was a puddle, and it was so beautiful. And so I highly recommend this one, and I loved it. I loved the hard of hearing rep and the sign language stuff in it, and also yeah, the dad too, and just how Miles handled it. And like I understood why the dad was mad, and you know, like it was a big secret to keep, but also the fact that Miles, that he took that initiation because he'd literally been in the class, I think it's like 6 months, and you just know from the story like when he would have had to start that and what that meant with his schedule and like what he was giving up of his time to go do that. And it wasn't just some like online course. I think he like went in person to take, and like the risk he was taking to go, like you don't have to go in, like you can take those classes online. He like went in and took a class so he could practice in person with people and be better, and wasn't just watching on YouTube. Like the dude went to a class, okay? This professional hockey player went to a class to learn sign language for her. And I just was like, like, come on. It's like if he wanted to, he would, and he fucking did. That's what we love to see. Okay. Let's keep going with these. So this one I'll just talk about briefly because it was a little more recent, and I actually still do have to reread this one, and I just didn't have time to reread it before I'm filming this video, but I need to reread this one and annotate it for a couple of my patrons. But I know it'll still be a 6-star. So this one is Wild Card by Elsie Silver, and this one is book 4 in the series. This one was about Sebastian and Gwen, and this one is a ex-boyfriend's dad. And it also was kind of a like I met her first type of thing. So these two have an age gap of, I don't know, what is it? I think it's about like 15 years. Because what's crazy is like she's actually like older than his son too, so it's kind of interesting. But anyway, these two actually meet at an airport, and it's really kind of a crazy day for Sebastian because I think he's just found out that he has a kid actually, because when he was really young, I guess he got a girl pregnant and they never told him. And this is a whole thing. This always happens every year. There's one of these books for me. This hits me really hard. I always say this because I've actually seen this happen in real life. One of my loved ones, this happened to him when he was 21 years old. A girl that he was dating got pregnant. Her mother kept it a secret. Like, I know it wasn't just her mother, but like the girl was 18. My cousin was 21. The girl's mother kind of forced her to keep it a secret until after the baby was born. Now, in the case of my cousin, they found out 3 days after the baby was born. He was already left off the birth certificate. The baby was adopted to someone else. Didn't find out. In this case, this is fictional. It's not the same thing, but it always hits me hard. He was never told about, Sebastian was never told about this until the kid is now like in his 20s. I think he's a football player, and he finds out that his dad is his stepdad. And he wants to know who his dad is. And so Sebastian has just found out about this. And so he's just like found out that he has a kid, and this kid's already raised and been raised by somebody else. And now and not only that, like his kid was told that like he didn't want him, and that the mother had no choice but to like raise him on his own because she was from this wealthy family, and Sebastian was like white trash basically. And it was really that like the mom probably saw her one night stand with him or whatever as like a mistake or something, and just picked someone else to be the kid's dad, right? But anyway, so has all this on his mind, but he gets stuck in the airport overnight, and he meets this woman named Gwen, who is just really full of energy. She's this like yoga instructor or something, and they end up having this kind of like silly night where she stops him from being so grumpy, and they just have this crazy chemistry. And when they part ways, she gives him her number. But let's just say she ends up giving him the number wrong, like it's off by 1 or something like that, because he does text her. He is really kind of like inspired by their connection, and he's like, what the hell, I'm gonna message this girl. I don't care that she was younger than me, she was beautiful, she made me feel something, and like, I'm gonna message her. And so he messages her, but like it's the wrong number, and so he never hears back, and she never hears from him. She thinks he never messaged her, but she like gave him the wrong number. Which, this is why you always text the person right in front of them. You just always do. You text right away and make sure you got the number, okay? Just always learn that lesson. If you're gonna play that game, always do it right away. So then what happens though, let me make sure I get this. But anyway, they have this, they just flirt. And so anyway, so he texted her and didn't get it. And then it was a whole, like, never heard from her. And 8 months later, he shows up at the birthday party for his son, who's made it into the NHL. How old is he here? Let me see. Trip is his kid's name. And I think it's his, like, what's he, 22, 23, something like that. I don't know. But Gwen is actually, like, older than his kid. He's, like, 4 or 5 years older than his kid. And Gwen is Trip's girlfriend. Sorry, the light is going to do that. So we'll just put the book down, because otherwise it's going to, well, maybe not. Which is just crazy. And so absolutely flabbergasted or whatever. And so that just gets the whole weekend off to a bad start as well. And Sebastian feels very off at this party anyway. And to then see this girl that he had this crazy connection with, and to feel like an outsider at his son's birthday, it's just a very, very bad party all around. And Gwen just feels super awkward too. And then we also see, like, Trip's also just very, like, dismissive of Gwen as well, which is just not a good look to see him kind of mistreating her as well. Isn't fun to watch him kind of, like, talk down to her as well. Oh, she's 27. Okay. Gwen's 27. And I think the kid was, like, 23 or whatever. So she was a little bit older than Trip. But anyway, so that party doesn't go well. Then we skip ahead 4 more months, and now she's showing up in Rose Hill, and she's no longer dating Trip. And now it's been like 1 full year since she'd met Sebastian. But she's in Rose Hill, and Sebastian is there. And now they're going to be in close proximity. And we start to now see these interactions that if you've read the other books you've seen before. Sebastian, who now finds out, you know, he's a single dad. So now there's the bowling league. He gets pulled into the bowling league that the other dudes are in. He also ends up donating, one of his body parts gets donated to Clive. And they all end up, like, staying together while they're looking out for Clive. And there's the sexual tension between these two. And then it's even more awkward because now Trip starts showing up to visit his dad and wants to get back together with Gwen, even though Gwen's like, you didn't treat me right, we're not getting back together. He's trying to win her over. And Sebastian wants a good relationship with his son, so he doesn't want anything with Gwen. And it's just one big whole mess and everything. But why this one was 6 stars for me, really, was Sebastian has never taken anything for himself. He works a job that's very dangerous. He's a hotshot, like, firefighter, or firefighter, not the hotshot. He, like, does the, like, they try to put out the planes with water and things like that. And so he does a really dangerous job fighting Canadian wildfires and shit. And he's very quiet. He's very lonely. And now having, honestly, like, Gwen in his town, who he feels like he can't have her, it's almost even more isolating for him than ever, too, because now she's becoming friends with some of the only friends he has. And he just doesn't feel like he can take anything for himself because he doesn't want to, he wants a relationship with Trip. But he also feels like him and Gwen, like Gwen is one of the only people who's seen him. But he doesn't feel like he can have Gwen if his son wants Gwen, but Gwen doesn't want his son. Like, it's a whole messy thing. But I just really loved how Gwen kind of forces Sebastian to confront something that he wants. And is he going to man up and take it and actually claim something that he wants and speak that out loud? Or is he going to continue to just let life pass him by and not demand what he wants? And I guess maybe I'm not articulating this one the right way, but there was just a lot of pining and longing in this one, but also a man at a point in his life where, like, you know, he's like in his 40s here. Or is he 40? I think he might be 40. And like, when is it time to get what you deserve and actually feel like you're where you belong, you know? And when is Gwen going to find a home where she wants to actually stay somewhere too? Because she's been kind of a wanderer in life. So I don't know. I think there are other books in that series that are maybe like more bombastic and like loud and fun. But to me, what the whole Rose Hill series was just a lot about like finding home. That's what the Rose Hill series was to me. And when you reflect on all of those, on Wild Love, Wild Eyes, Wild Side, and Wild Card, they were all about finding home. It was a different person in each one that was finding a home, but they were all about finding a home and finding the person who was your home. And apparently so there was that. But wow, we're a long way in already, because I can't do anything subtle for sure. Okay. Another 6-star. And this is probably the one that, in all honesty, I have some of the least to say, just because it was one of the harder ones to process this year. And I don't know quite how to, I don't know. I don't quite know how to get through all of it. But yeah, I mean, can't get enough. Kennedy Ryan. I mean, it's not like I can say every book of hers is 6 stars, because book 2 in the series was a pretty big like miss for me. I feel like the romance didn't give me what I wanted from it, though that is still a really powerful book. Like, it's a really good book. I don't ever walk away bored from one of her books. But I feel like she came back with a real gut punch with the romance in this one too. But anyway, this one is Hendrix and Maverick. They're both business people in this one. We got a girl boss in Hendrix and we got a tech mogul in Maverick. But they're both business people in very different ways. And also we have Hendrix dealing with a very sensitive family issue. Her mother has dementia and is really struggling, and she wants to be there for her mom, but she's also at this point where her business is really taking off. She's really girl bossing really hard. Her career is doing everything she wants it to. She doesn't really have any specific dreams or wants in the family way of things. But then she meets Maverick, and they just have kind of this magical connection. And the day that she meets Maverick is actually the last event where he's pretending with his ex. There's this party that him and his ex are hosting together where they're still pretending to be together, but then they're going to be going their separate ways. And so Maverick is already, checked out of this relationship. But the awkward part for Hendrix is that ex that Maverick is leaving, she doesn't really want to just let go of Maverick. And it also happens to be someone that Hendrix is doing business with and may want to do business with in the future. So that could be a little tricky for them as well. But I just love how Maverick ends up wanting to do some business with Hendrix when he learns about her company. And don't ask me what her company does right now, because I couldn't tell you. But not only is he, interested in her, but he becomes interested in her company and wanting to invest in that and support it in a way. And he just wants to find ways to spend time with her and be around her. And the more they do that, the more intoxicated he becomes by her. And I really loved how he just wanted to see her shine, and support her. And he has a lot of great advice to give as well, because on the family front, he also has seen what she's going through on an intimate level. There are people that he loves who have walked through that journey before too. So he actually gives some really good advice that truly is heartfelt, even outside of his like romantic interest in her. He gives some like, hey, I've seen this journey walked before, and he has some thoughtful things to share. And yeah, otherwise, it's Kennedy Ryan. You're going to hurt. You're going to be in pain, but the romance is beautiful. The chemistry is insane. The audiobook, if you listen to it, it will take you to beautiful places. And when it was done, I think why this is at a 6-star for me is just that it's such a high quality. And because the romance still was very important to the story, it's still it's in lockstep with the journey. And Maverick's journey still was given equal weight as Hendrix was. Whereas in the second one in the series, I didn't get really like anything out of Jonah, I think his name was. I felt like he was completely a bystander and only popped in when he served the heroine story in that one. Maverick, we spend equal amount of time with in this one. Though, he does still seem pretty put together in here. We at least spent equal time with him, enough that when the story was over, I felt like I knew him just as well as her. And so then when I was done with it, I was like, I don't have any complaints about it at all. And at the time of year, I just hadn't read many 6-star books. So this is one, when I look at it, that I'm like, I wouldn't downgrade this from a 6. Like, I just wouldn't. I just also, I don't have quite the desire to, read it again the way I do with other 6-star books. So it's still a favorite of the year. Easy favorite of the year. I just struggle with this year of having ones where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to read it again. There are only 5 of them. That's hard. But the last one that's a 6-star, we'll just mention quick, and then we'll get into these other few I want to go, because we're already at a good ways in, is this book. I gave 6 stars, but I've already talked about this one in my audiobook and in some other ones. And since this was the third in a series and it's not a romance, I won't go into it, but I gave Empire of the Dawn 6 stars. This was a dark fantasy. It's not a romance. It's pretty dark, pretty gritty. The audiobook was wonderful. I love Jay Kristoff's stories. Fantastic. It's in this dark, vampires have taken over. And it is one of my favorite books of the year, so it had to pop in here. But yeah, definitely wild for sure. Okay, then the rest that I'm going to talk about are 5-star books. To round off my top 10, I have 4 5-star books, and then, like I said, 1 honorable mention to get to, or 2 honorable mentions. So I actually have a fanfic to pop in here, which, yeah, I didn't read much fanfic this year, though the month of December, I've actually gotten through quite a few, which I'll talk about in my December wrap-up, which will be coming soon here, probably Thursday or Saturday's video. I'm not sure yet. We'll see when I get around to finishing that up, but that'll be coming soon. But my favorite fic of the year I wanted to include in my top 10. My favorite fic of the year was Meet Your Match by Morgan Mercy, and I'll have a link to this down below. Now, again, with my memory issues, I don't remember this one perfectly, but I went and looked it up on AO3 again just to give the quick synopsis of this one, and I had a bit of it coming back to me when I did that. But this was like, I read this way early in the year, and this was one that I'd had on my TBR for a long time. And this one is a Dramini, and this one, oh, it was so cute. This was a slow burn, and it's so fun because what happens is this is actually a like setup, like Draco and Hermione get set up by Muggle friends they have. So Draco had kind of like sought a break from everything in the Muggle world. And he actually made Muggle friends, which is so funny when you know him. And Hermione is friends with these Muggles too. And they have this dinner party, and they decide to set up their two friends, who they are, of course, these oblivious, lovely people. Shannon, I know, is the woman's name. I can't remember the guy's name. And so they get invited to a dinner party, and they have no clue that they're introducing these former like arch rivals to each other for a literal like blind date. So they both show up, and Draco and Hermione get introduced to each other again. And this could have been an absolute disaster, and it is kind of a like, but it does get Hermione kind of on the back foot, because at first she just wants to be like aghast at the whole thing, but then it's kind of like, how does Draco know Muggles well enough that he would be invited to a dinner party, and how would he be letting them set him up on a date, So it at least makes her curious, even though at first straight up she's like, fuck no, this is not happening. But it makes her curious enough to be like, okay, what's going on? Because something's got to be going on. And so, so this becomes a like enemies to friends to lovers is what this one is. And it actually, there is some PTSD that Draco's been struggling with, and a lot that he's been trying to work through of like what he was involved in and things he was forced to do, and things that he did do to keep himself safe. And, they're struggling with things that he'd been a part of. And, how did he make friends with Muggles and things like that? And then Hermione, are there things that she needs to forgive Draco for? Can she forgive him for? And then how they become more. So, this was one I enjoyed so much. And I'll have a link to this down below if you would like to read this one. But I enjoyed it so much. It's probably my favorite fic that I read in 2025. So there you go. Okay, then, like I said, there is a lot of hockey. I literally, all the rest of these are hockey fics. I don't know how that happened, guys. I have read a lot of hockey, and they were all like, I love them. So, one, Unloved by Peyton Corinne. This one, I'm so excited to read. Unbound. Like, I'm really edging myself with that one, but I'm going to read that soon. But Unloved was Matt and Ro, and I'll just briefly touch on these ones that were 5 stars here. But this is one where Ro, she is currently dating someone at the beginning of this, but anyone can tell she's in a pretty abusive relationship. The dude is an asshole. He gaslights her. He manipulates her. He makes her feel like the desires that she has are dirty. And he's just a bully, and she just cannot see it. Like, really, she can't see it. And she ends up tutoring Matt, who he's called Freddie in here. And she's actually had a crush on him before, but she ends up tutoring him. He has dyslexia and even like dyscalculia, and he might lose his like spot on the team if he can't get his grades up. And Matt just really struggles with his grades, struggles with test taking, struggles with all of these things, and he's just really told he's a dumb jock, and he really kind of just lives up to it and lets it go. And Ro just really helps him with that in these really beautiful ways, and he ends up really helping her with her confidence. And as he sees how she gets treated by her boyfriend, he just really helps her come out of that. And there are a few situations that he just really shows up for her in some beautiful ways. Like, oh, but she also comforts him too. Was this honestly kind of predatory situation that Matt was in, where there was let's say a person who has power over him who was using him sexually, and he thought that's all that he was good for. So he let that happen. And it was so sad because, yeah, he thought that's all he was good for. And Ro really shows him that that's not true. So, Peyton Corinne just has this way of ripping her guts out. And I'm so scared and excited to read Unbound and what she's going to do with that. Like, I'm scared, you guys. Like, I'm scared of what it's going to mean, okay? I'm scared of reading Unbound and what that one's going to be. But this was beautiful. I love these two. And yeah, you definitely want to read this one. It's going to be good. Or it was so good. Then this was one I read way back. And there's supposed to be another one coming soon. It keeps getting like pushed out. But she said she's going to pull it forward more. But there was High Sticking the Heart by Marie M. And this one was Ariella and Dalton, right? And I listened to an audio of this one. And this one is the one where Ariella is the she's the strength training coach for this hockey team, and that really kind of goes against like her culture. She is Latina, and her family really doesn't approve of her working in this field. So she's moved to where she's moved, and she meets this like 6'4" Texan who is on the hockey team, and she actually like pretends to be his date to get his ex off his back. But then her new job finds out that she was on a date with him, and she's going to get fired because she's supposed to be his like his weight strength training person. And so then they have to pretend they're actually dating so she can keep her job. It's really weird hoops. But I just love it because Dalton is obsessed with her and is totally golden retriever, and she's super black cat and like doesn't have time for him. And he's just like, I'm going to be the best fake boyfriend you've ever had so that you don't want to get rid of me. And I kind of just love it. Like, it's so sweet. And I just remember, and he's actually like, he's this super talented, sweet, wonderful man. And his father, I think, is the like, I can't remember if he's like the owner of the team or I don't think he's the coach. I don't think he's the coach, but he's something involved with the team where because he was the one going to fire her. So he's something to do with the team where he has control, but like not enough control that he can really like boss him around. But like, we don't like the dad. He's totally toxic and we like hate him and shit. But I just really love this one because Ariella, she's almost the kind of chick that I wouldn't like, but Dalton is so sweet and like, I love him so much that he wins her over, and then she wins me over because she appreciates what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, if she hadn't appreciated what he was doing to the proper level, I would have had problems with her because I would have been like, girl, this man deserves your appreciation. But like, she does. And so it works for me. And again, because of the culture she's from, I understand her resistance to him because she's under a lot of pressure to like stay home and have babies and marry the proper guy and all this stuff. And for her to be in the career she's in, like, I understand that she pushes against it as hard as she can, and to just have a guy treat her well, like, that's everything her family's telling her to do. And she's like, no, I worked hard for this career. I'm not just going to fold and be treated like a princess, right? And normally that would bug me, but it doesn't because Dalton, he doesn't want her to give up her career, but he's like, but let me love you, you know, like it's a thing. So love that. Then another one that I had to include one from this author because she was new to me this year and I adore her. And so this one was Before We Came by Sloane St. James. And this one is I think the Lakes hockey, which I end up loving this series actually. And this one was the first one in the series, not the first one I read, but it's the first one in the series and probably my favorite one. And this one is Birdie and Lonan. And this one has such a good beginning where, well, it's sad, like it's a rough beginning, but like it's so fascinating, where Birdie's mother has died. And upon her mother's death, some very interesting things happen. So she knows that she's adopted. But upon her mother's death, there's a photo at her mother's funeral that is supposed to be of her and her mom, but it doesn't look like her. And it kind of is like weirding her out. And she decides she maybe kind of wants to find out who her birth parents are. She's always been told her birth parents just gave her up and that her mother who adopted her is like the best thing that ever happened to her. But her mom was actually kind of a bitch and gaslit her and was very manipulative of her and didn't want to let her live her own life and everything. So she had a really rough relationship with her mom. And she's like, maybe I want to find out what happened in my family's life. And maybe they miss me. And maybe I at least want to find out what happened to them. And so she puts her DNA into, you know, one of those programs. And at the same time, she finds her mom's journals and discovers some interesting things in her mom's journals. And then she discovers that her family's DNA is in one of these databases. And in fact, it's 3 family members, her mother, her father, and her brother, full-blooded DNA. And in these journals, she discovers that maybe, kind of, sorta, she wasn't adopted. She was kidnapped. So the woman she'd been living with since she was 6 years old had kidnapped her from a mall and then brainwashed her into thinking she was a different child. And also, what happened to the child that her mom did have? Because there is a picture of her mom with a child before her mom had her. And where did that child go? And who did she belong to? So that's literally the beginning of this hockey romance. So the guy in this story, Lonan, he is best friends with the family who had their child stolen, who had Bridget taken from them. And he actually was, or is, best friends with the guy, with the brother. And he, you know, he loved Bridget as a friend. And in fact, when they were little, they actually had kissed each other in a treehouse when they were just little kids. And he has always felt like something was missing from him. And yes, that sounds goofy and cheesy, but he had just always missed her. And, you know, in his heart of hearts, maybe kind of had thought that maybe I would have married my best friend's little sister. And maybe I've just been missing a part of me. And it just so happens that when he's in a city for a game, he hooks up with this chick in a hotel. And this woman who's staying in a hotel happens to be in Minnesota because she's going to meet her birth parents the next day, though her birth parents don't know that she's showing up. And that's Bridget. And she ends up having a fling with a hockey player who happens to be the boy next door that she doesn't know. But so you see where this gets a little crazy, and it might be a bit much for everybody. All right, it is. But the next day after she has the fling with this guy, she goes and she introduces herself to her mother. And then everything happens. She meets her parents and her brother. She learns all these things. And then what should happen? But her brother calls his best friend and says, guess what? We found Birdie. This is fucking wild. And Lonan goes there, and when he discovers that it's the woman he just had a one-night stand with, Lonan is done. He's like, it's meant to be. I'm going to make sure that this all works out because that's my fate. He's like, that's my girl. So that book just, that was wacky. But me as a person who true crime is kind of my shit, I hate saying that because it always sounds weird, but I'm fascinated by true crime. So to have a true crime element with like a kidnapping and a thing, and what also happens throughout the book is that those journals that Birdie found, we get little clips of like what the mother was doing to discover like how she had like kidnapped Birdie and like what was happening. Very interesting. So I haven't stopped thinking about that book. I really liked it. And I am interested to read more from Sloane St. James. So loved it. So there you go. Those are the 10 books that I'm choosing as my top 10 books of the year. And as promised, I have 2 other books that are honorable mentions. And honestly, I don't think anyone is surprised. And these are the books that will be getting more videos of me talking about. I mentioned at the beginning, I will be doing a, let me back this up a little bit. I will be doing a series, a TV series recap, and I will be doing a adaptation discussion. So the two books that get a special mention are Heated Rivalry and The Long Game. I've read Heated Rivalry probably 4 times since the end of, well, since Thanksgiving. I've talked about this now, you know, on the 29th of November, when I watched the first 2 episodes, I immediately bought the ebook and I read this whole book because I had to know. And then I immediately read The Long Game because I had to know. And then each subsequent week, as the next episode came out, I would then pick up Heated Rivalry and read wherever the episode stopped through the rest of the book, because they were leaving us on these cliffhangers. And I was so like, no, I needed to be happy that I would keep reading it. So, I mean, I didn't read it fully through 4 times, but I've read it fully through twice, and I've read, you know, 2/3 of it 4 times, half of it 4 times. Like, I've read that many times. The Long Game I fully read through 3 times, and I'm currently rereading again and annotating it. So I just, each time I read them, I love them more and more. I've rated them 5 stars. And honestly, I love them more each time. Again, I will talk more about this when I do the adaptation. And I had someone just this morning ask me, should I watch the show? Should I read the books? What should I do first? I will say this is one of the first times ever I'm saying this. I think you should just watch the show first, now that the whole show's out. And I'll get more in depth with this when I do my Heated Rivalry show review. This is just my personal opinion. People will tell you other things. I think you should watch the show first. I think you should. Now that the whole thing's out and you can just sit down and watch it in basically 5 hours. You can watch all 6 episodes in like 5 hours. I think you should just watch it. I think you should. And just to give you the basic reasons why, before I make a full video, is because I dearly love this book. I do. Like I said, it's 5 stars. So happy mine finally arrived. It took 3 fucking weeks for Harlequin to get their shit together and send me my copies of these books. I personally think that the show only makes the reading experience better because the acting elevates this. Okay, these books are written very succinctly. Like the emotion portrayed by these actors and the cuts made, I think it elevates the books. That's my personal opinion. I've seen other people have that opinion, but that's my personal opinion, okay? Specifically, some of the most emotional scenes in the show, or like, okay, some of what feel like the most pivotal scenes in the show, I don't know why I'm pointing up there. I don't have it on the screen right now. They're very abrupt in the book. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, Rachel Reed doesn't linger on them. Like the, what's an example of a moment without like fully spoiling it? Like the tuna melt. We blow right by that in the book. That is not emotionally devastating in the book. It's just like, boop. Sorry, I've got to go. I missed a meeting. And Illie's like, you missed a meeting? Yep, I missed. Bye. And we run out and it's over. And you're not, like, you know how emotionally devastating that was if you've seen the show, and you're like, of him being like, Hollander. I don't know what Hollander. And you're like, don't you leave him. He's giving you his hand. And you want to, like, your guts are coming out. Or the flashing lights in the club and you want to cry. That is like 2 lines in here, right? And again, that's not degrading this at all. Like, I love it. This is the groundwork. This is what it's built on this back, man. But I personally think that the show elevates it, right? Because now when I read these, I am picturing it. And that doesn't happen very often, okay? Okay, in fact, there's only one other property that I've ever read and watched where those things meld together. There's only one. Okay? And that's Outlander, okay? Yep, I said it. But anyway, I'll have more to come. This was my top 10 reads of the year, and these are my honorable mentions are Heated Rivalry and The Long Game, which has seen me through one of the hardest months of the year. Honestly, I've said that just with, as I said, with my brain fog and just with kind of some emotional heaviness I've been having. Having both these books and the show and the fandom as a whole has just helped so much. And so have all these other books too. I mean, I love putting together my favorites of the year, and this still was absolutely such a pleasure. I'll have links to all of these. Romance is still just the best. It's the best. So let me know what your favorites were. I can't wait to hear. Let me know if any of these were in your top 10 as well. And yeah, I can't wait to see what 2026 brings, even though it won't be more heated rivalry. That's sad. Yeah. Let me know. I love you guys. Thank you for sticking with me for another year. You're the bestest. And we'll see you next time. Bye.